Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Indian education is the topic of today. It is an essay written by Sorman Alexei, American native writer. Indian education is the experience of the writer himself about his difficulty in school education. It reveals that people often make wrong accusations about people from specific race, class, and ethnicity as the narrator has felt in his own school life in reservation system. The narrator has regarded himself as victor. He is not a victor, but he regarded himself as victor because his teacher told that he should become a doctor and should improve the tribal, should cure the tribal system of his native people, of his tribes. And he went home and he looked at the mirror and he said himself that he was victor. And his father was drinking a gallon of vodka every day, and his mother also was inside, and his parents were weeping, crying. They were living in isolation, separate, not together. They were not quite friendly, loving, cooperative. And at that time, he looked at the mirror himself and he said he imagined himself he was a doctor, Victor, and he thought that it was necessary for him to go inside the room, in emergency room. And he said, go, Mr. Dr. Victor, in the emergency to reconcile his parents. This is how he put his name, Victor, but it was imaginative name of being a doctor as Victor, right? The narrator has, yes, regarded himself as a victor, and he expresses his feeling from the grade 1 to grade 12, how he got mistreated, misbehaved, maltreated, and when he joined in class 1, grade 1, in reservation quota in school, and what happened? His white friends used to chase him, used to beat him, used to scold him, and they even buried him in the snow. And he thought that it was his last day. He was not going to survive. He thought that he could not breathe properly, and his face was down in the snow. He was buried, and luckily he got saved. And then later in grade 2, his teacher really scolded him, really mistreated him, misbehaved him, and she thought that he was always not in good position. And he was Indian, so he was misbehaved. That is what the experience he has got in class or grade 2. And then he got one friend, Randy, and he was quite strong, and he started pushing and then beating white students too, and white friends too. And then he got united with his friend Randy, and later they started becoming defensive against the injustice, against the maltreatment, mistreatment to them, and then he became a good friend with those who were ready to punch first to the friends who were against of them. Right? He's mistreated, misbehaved, and misbehaved by the classmates and the teachers. His own classmates, especially the white classmates. That is what he has brought. He has to face such maltreatment only because he is identified as an Indian, and he is accused of being involved in drinking from the very beginning of life. If something was wrong in his life, and the teachers also took the all, not only him, even all Indians, as the result of their drinking, as a result of their fighting. They were always, Indians were always regarded, Indians means Native Americans, were always regarded as out of control, out of discipline, fighters, gangsters, drinkers, and not honest, not good people, good students. That was the condition. That is what he realized, he felt, and he expressed that sort of feeling in his writing. The wrong form of concept of friends and the teachers of the school has been reflected in this essay. How they treated him, how they treated other Indians, right, Native Americans. The thesis of the essay, which main topic, main idea of this is to highlight how Victor, as an Indian, overcame, means he was able to face the troubles, the hardships that he suffered during his early years due to his Indian ethnicity. Because of his Indian ethnicity, he had to suffer. The hardship came not because of any other reasons, but because of being identified as Native Americans or Indian ethnicity. That is why he had to overcome, he had to win that sort of situation, and he did it. It displays how Native Americans were, how they were, and how they were ridiculed, means mocked at, right, by the school classmates when they were in reservation education system in schools. The mistreatment to the Indian is a depressing and sad one. It is not good. It is quite melancholic, but it ends with victory and pride of the Indian, especially this Victor, because Victor worked hard. He got his labor too much, and then at last he was able to win the award. He was able to get the accomplishments, and then there were so many photographers to take his photo in the this prize distribution, in the award distribution, and he was a victorious one, and he won that prize, and he was proud of himself as Indian and Victor. And so many photographs were published in the newspapers, in the local newspapers, in the tribal newspapers, and he was a hero in his tribal tribes. And his photographs were even with the white students, white friends who had mistreated him, who had misbehaved him, who had troubled him too much. This is how his victory was at the end, but he did not take it. He did not take it seriously. He took it normally. He thought that was not a great achievement in his life because it was the reward of his own hard work, and he took it in a normal sense. Is it was a common result, though he got the victorious position. The writer shows that a Native American who tries to capture what it is like to grow up in the white American culture. He shows how it is difficult to grow up in the white American culture. Being a Native American, it is difficult to grow up in the white American culture. That is his belief. That is what he says in his essay. The author uses its academic year to demonstrate his experiences and shows how differently non-white students are treated in an area that is still greatly affected by the effect of colonization, that is still under the control of colonization. The narrator has drawn how he is troubled by his friends and the teachers in grade wise from grade 1 to grade 2 and grade 3. He has given long list how he just was treated and other Indians were Native Americans were treated in the school, how they were misbehaved, maltreated, and even not only his classmates but also by the teachers, right? In his spelling test, it was good, but he is fed the paper to eat by his teacher. Betty Towel was his teacher in grade 2. That was the event of grade 2. In grade 2, there was a spelling test, and he was the just winner. He did the best job in his spelling test, but the teacher, that Betty Towel, did not encourage him, did not appreciate his good work. Rather, she made a bundle of paper and then forced him to eat and then swallow that. That was a punishment given to him. Then he even writes a letter to his parents with the contents that either his breaks to be caught or to keep him at home But his parents arrived at his school and pushed their braids across Betty Tao's desk next day. Right? That means Betty Tao was his teacher, and she not only made him to swallow the piece of paper in his spelling test, and she did not like the braidsman's that hair, right, style, and she in the wrote a letter and sent that letter with him with the content there in the letter, either to get his breads caught or to keep him at home and not to send him in his school. And at that time, his parents became quite angry. They were furious. They did not like this sort of letter. They thought it was a kind of an insult to the Indians. And they came with their breads and they just pushed their breads across Betty Tao's desk. And she was threatened, right? They challenged her and want her not to raise such questions against the Indians in the school. And at that time, this teacher Betty Tall was scared with the Indians. It was natural for the white classmates and the teachers that the Native Americans would treat roughly, badly, and they had to be safe. Then the teacher cries with the words Indians, Indians, without capital letters there in Indians. Though there is capital letter in this typing, there is no capital letter in I. Indians, 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 she said, and it was a kind of expression, insult as an Indian. Victor narrates all the events in details that he had to suffer from the teachers and his friends in his great to prove how hard it was and it is to study in a school being the Native American there. It is still difficult there to study in school being the Native American. That is his idea. It was difficult and it is difficult. The narrator worked hard and he proved himself that he got awards and accomplishments and scholarships too. And it was a great moment for him. And there were photographers, and so many photographers came and then took the photos, but he did not take it seriously. He took it normally. And next day, in his tribal newspapers, the photographers were running with his friends, white friends and others, and it was his victory, his greatness in his community, but he took it normally. It has even stated that hard work draws sweet fruit in life. The writer got it. This is how the writer, the Indian education, that is what he has presented, how Native Americans, Indian uh, students were treated by the white Americans there in his schools. And he has presented the list of problems, list of ideas from grade 1 to grade 12, how he got that sort of situation there as an Indian himself, as a Native American student in his school. This is how the writer has brought or captured the real concept of the position, how they were and they are treated there in America as an Indian. Thank you.